Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thanks, Johnny. Nice words. It's obviously a pleasure to be here. It's wonderful, as John pointed out. There's the diversity that's just absolutely wonderful to see up on stage here. The different demonstrations. It's the old and the new and the merging of both that's just so important to what we do. In fact, John goes back to Blitz. We did an article we termed the modern traditionalist, which is a sort of a term we was using for a lot of us in our journey, and meaning that we should never forget where we came from, but always be open to the environment as it is today, and embrace that. That's what it's all about. When I started martial arts, it was very limited what we could learn. We were basically exposed to the instructor that happened to be in our area. And nowadays we have DVDs, we have books, we have the luxury of air travel, and that's affordable, etc., etc. So there's a whole world out there of knowledge, and I guess that's the important thing to put across is that we should all just keep daring to participate. Is very, very important. John mentioned about comfort zones. It's very easy to remain in one's comfort zone. Because it is, it takes a lot of courage, it's hard to step out of what you know well and what you do well. Unfortunately, the horrible word ego gets in the way. We all have egos, and we hate to sometimes think that we get found out for what we don't know. But it's that ability to step out of our comfort zone and dare to participate in something new to us and take on new challenges that's important. I started training, I started in judo when I was about 11, so that's a long time ago. That's 1961, and my start into martial arts was really, another word I want to bring up is passion. What's most important, I think, out of everything we do is to be passionate about what we do. If you don't like what you do, I don't believe you really should be spending as much time doing it. And passion is a very, very important thing for me. And a lot of people ask, well, what got you into the martial arts? And a lot of people will say, well, you grew up in a bad neighborhood and I was beaten up by the kids next door. And I never had that. I had a great upbringing. Everything was wonderful. And I think, I got introduced to martial arts literally in the back of comic books. They used to have ads for judo and defeat 5 people, with one finger, and thought, wow, that's pretty cool. But again, it wasn't really as a need to want to learn to fight as such, and I went to this judo class. There was a gentleman named John Burge, who was a Nunawading policeman, joined his school, but I was so skinny and so small, as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, I looked like one of those cartoon characters in the school, getting chucked from one end of the dojo to the other. And so I thought, well, that's not quite, what the comic book said I should be able to do. But on I went, and a friend of mine that was training in judo told me about a karate school opening up. And I lived in, grew up in Croydon, Melbourne suburb. And he said, come along and have a look at the demonstration. And I went down, and of course that was Hunchy Tino Separano. He was up the back there. And that was it for me. I saw this demonstration. It was pretty simple stuff. And she hadn't been out in the country that long. And, they did one-step sparring and some taekwondo, jodan and chu-dance and, a bit of sparring. I thought, wow, this is for me. I just loved what I saw. But I think already I had a passion. Again, it wasn't ulterior motive as far as can I be a better fighter and all this. Back those days, I really believe when we trained, we did that because we just wanted to be the best martial artists we could be. There were really not even any commercial overtones to what we did. It was just a matter of this is what we're meant to do, and I felt that's what I was meant to do with my life. And I think passion, why I bring up passion, is just be passionate and believe in what you're doing, and it's almost like the universe will take care of you as a result. And everything that's kind of happened in my life has just really come as a result of just wanting to be the best martial artist I can be. As you know, I was involved in Zendo Kai with Bob Jones, and we spent many years with schools all around the country. Through that, I got to do personal bodyguard work for a lot of different rock and roll bands and travel the world. Met Chuck Norris through, that association with Bob. Went to the United States in '79. Told everybody I'd be there for a month, and I'm happy here. Blah blah blah. And 27 years later, I'm still there. But again, I think it was a passion, just a desire to participate and learn. But out of all of that, again, if we can, and stay in motion, you know, is the other advice I give you with this passion. You know, we keep getting back to this comfort zone and daring to participate and try new things. I mean, the mere fact that you're all here at this convention says a lot about you as individuals. The fact that you're willing to jump into these different seminars and try something that you're not familiar with. David Meyer mentions Jiu-Jitsu. That happened to me with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I got introduced to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu through the tapes that they had mentioned. There was a tape of Rickson Gracie fighting a character named Zulu, etc., etc. Chuck Norris had brought that back from Brazil and showed me that tape. And, you know, I thought, wow, that's kind of interesting. I brought it back, and actually John and I sat down together and watched that in my living room, this tape. And we're sitting there, and it's like, wow, this is, you know, and actually John was the one to sort of remark, there's more to this than it appears. In other words, you look at grappling, you know, when you don't know anything about it, it looks like a couple of people rolling around on the ground. But he realized, and off he went to Brazil, and ended up bringing Carlos Gracie Jr. out here, and Renzo Gracie, and I had met Rickson Gracie in the States, and through Renzo met Machado brothers. I guess what I'm saying is it's about getting out there, getting out in the field, networking, daring to meet other people and be interested in what they do, and hence a whole new world of passion starts up. I mean, Jiu-Jitsu for me, my first lesson was with Royce Gracie at Rickson's, and I had Royce sit on me and had to try and get him off me, and then I sat on him and had to try and stay there. And that, you know, the easy thing I could have done is walk away from that class and say, well, you know, I could have hit him in the head, I could have elbowed him or whatever. But in honesty, I have to say to myself, wow, I felt like a little baby on the ground with these guys. So my immediate reaction was, I have to learn this. And I often say to people, don't think of these new arts and new experiences as instead of. Don't be threatened by what you already do by looking at another art that has some potential. Just think of it as well as you add it to what you already do. I'd had a whole life of stand-up, and I thought, well, if I could just get a little bit of that knowledge and add it to what I already know, how much better a martial artist can I be? And now, you know, as you know, I got a black belt with Jean-Jacques Machado, which was a real thrill for me, especially starting at such a later stage of my life. But again, it's just, it takes a lot of guts to get out there and just, again, dare to participate, be okay with what you don't know. Chuck Norris has always been a fantastic role model for me. I introduced Chuck to the Machados, and you know, Chuck in his years when he competed, he was renowned for training with as many different people as he could. Didn't matter who it was, as long as they had something to show him, he was willing to bow down to them and just learn what he could. And when I introduced the Machados, and we eventually got a school going for them, one of the first schools, Chuck was one of the first to put on a white belt and just jump into class with other white belts and just participate. And that says a lot about him as a role model, and I think we can learn a lot about that as far as letting go of our egos. He didn't care that he was Chuck Norris, and people would think, oh, well, Chuck's supposed to know it all, and blah, 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 blah. He could have sat there with his arms folded and basically sort of given all sorts of reasons why he doesn't need to do it, but no, he jumped right in there. And again, all you people being here, you're doing the same thing. You know, just don't be apathetic. You know, don't let age be a factor, just be in there, participate in the whole world of martial arts, and it's a wonderful journey. I've had a wonderful journey. Movies, I've been making movies now for 26 years. A lot of them I wouldn't want to see again, little for you guys. But you know, so what? I had a 25-year reunion in the States. It was a bit of a celebration that somebody put in LA for all my work in movies. And honestly, you can get up there and try and justify, well, they're B-grade movies, or they go to cable or whatever, who cares? You know, what I realized when I saw that room full of people was it's the people you meet. It's those friendships that you forge. From 20 years ago, there were some people that bothered to come from England, from all over the place, and that's where the richness of life comes in. And that comes from getting out of your comfort zone, daring to participate, opening your heart up and your mind and everything else, and welcoming these friendships, you know, not through jealousies or anything else, just by having a common through line of passion for what we do, which in this case is the martial arts. And the only other thing I'd say is just we all need to also take on the responsibility of being the role models that we talk about in our advertising and everything for our schools and what we do. Be involved, be role models yourself. Don't leave it to the other people. Be part of the solution. If you see some areas of the martial arts you don't think live up to the credo that should, and let's be involved and appreciate all the arts for what they are. And the only other thing I wanted to really emphasize is, just remember where you came from, remember arts, remember the tradition. We're seeing a lot of offshoots. It's mixed martial arts. There's kind of, I teach a lot of just street self-defense. That's all, fine, but don't remember the roots of our art, what enables us to do what we do as well as we do. I mean, I often say I was blessed to have, Hunchy as my instructor, because as you know, when you start martial arts, you don't know as a lay person whether your instructor is good or bad until you've wasted a lot of time and money or both. And, I was just blessed to have such a foundation. And, we need to remember that. We need to remember our instructors and our guides and our teachers. Hunchy was a pioneer of martial arts in this country, as far as I'm concerned. I started training in 1966. In Goju. Now Paul's here, carrying on the mantle. Hunchy's up the back there. We did a seminar about a year and a half ago, and that was a thrill of my life. Oh, see my phone. It's my agent calling. I couldn't thank Hunchy more for what he's given me, because honestly, what he gave me is what the rest of my life became. The arts that he introduced me to. And, from the bottom of my heart, Hunchy, thank you so much for that beginning. So, I guess in fine, I won't keep carrying on here, but be passionate and the only other thing, by the way, I was going to mention before is I hate you, Brendan Foster. Sorry, I just thought I had to tell you that. Gets out there looking like that. What the hell is that all about? There's such an amazing amount of talent in this country. I really want you to look at someone like myself. Look, I grew up in Croydon. I go to the United States, doing bodywork. We happened to meet Chuck Norris and end up in the Octagon. Never had aspirations to get into movies. I've got over 60 on the plate now. All I want to say to you is if I can do it, any of you can do it. Everything is possible. It's a matter of what limitations you set on yourself. I remember when I first went for a film called Force 5 and met Benny the Jet Urquidez and Master Bong Suhan, Joe Lewis was in it, and I remember going to this audition and there was over 100 of the top martial artists in America. And I looked around and said, oh, what am I doing here? I've got this, what they termed then was a funny accent, this Australian accent. Joe Corley, Bill Wallace, all these different people I just looked up to so much, all out there, showing their wares in order to get one of the 5 lead roles in this movie. And it ended up, so I went in with an attitude of, why me? And when, we finished the day's auditions for Fred Weintraub and Bob Klaus. Fred Weintraub and Bob Klaus, of course, were responsible for Enter the Dragon. And it ended up 10 of us, and I was still one of the 10. And I got to tell you, that was a whole turning point for me as far as my attitude. It changed from why me, it changed from that to why not me. I've trained just as hard as anybody. I have a chance like anybody else, and a change of attitude, held me in good stead for the rest of the career. I think one of my biggest failings with movies was that I've always said I'm a martial artist first and, an actor second. Film were really just a way of me to financially sort of be able to train and travel as much as I like and do. If I'd focused on acting, but as they say, what you think about most, you will attract that type of energy and that type of success, and I'm absolutely fine with that. I mean, I'm here today still with all you people, getting to share knowledge with all of you and have a wonderful, wonderful experience. And so, as I say, it's a great journey, but again, passion, guys. Don't accept mediocrity. Too many people accept mediocrity in their lives. They compare themselves with Joe Bloggs down the road who's kind of okay, so that makes them okay. Set your goals high. You know, use your mentors, get the people at the top of their game and just strive to be the best you can be. It doesn't matter if physically you never get there. It's an individual battle we have within ourselves to just be the best that we can be, and that's all can be expected of any of you. So I think that's it. Master Farid, thank you so much for inviting me here, and again, wonderful job bringing this together, and you know, the openness that I'm seeing here is kind of like what I experienced when I first went to the US. You know, Chuck introduced me to people like Benny Akitas and Bill Wallace and Fumio Demura, and they opened their doors. It wasn't about what style are you, what rank are you. It was about let's get in, let's move around, let's exchange some techniques, and if we can establish that kind of camaraderie here without the blinkers on as far as style, just open our doors, our eyes, and just experience each other's arts and abilities and everything else, develop those friendships, then we're well on the way. Everybody knows, pound for pound, we have some of the top martial artists in the world. That's been proven, whether it's in boxing, in kickboxing, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's a wonderful world out there. Again, just dare to participate and be a part of it.